What is up, YouTube? So today we are just headed back from the gym. So my wife and I got this actually while she was in training. There hasn't been a whole lot done to it. We've only had it for a couple months, but we do have a few things done to it just to make it a little bit more fun. Couple little suspension things, a small lift, some different shocks that I had to do some modifications, stuff like that to get them to work. Obviously remove the sway bar, and you know, lower control arms up front and stuff like that, just to make it work a little bit better while we kind of get our life sorted, and then we'll kind of, you know, change things up as we go. I'm going to run home. We are going to take some videos here of this thing and kind of show you guys what is all up with the suspension, and walk you through what the plan is going forward. Back home, just kind of walk you guys through what is all done to this thing. It's not a whole lot, pretty basic, surprisingly capable. These things don't take a whole lot to make them work really well. I have a buddy who has a brand new Gladiator, 5.5 inches of lift, 37s, upper and lower control arms, track bars, sector shaft brace, oh man, the list goes on and on. And it's a gorgeous rig. And I think it's mainly because of the breakover angles with this thing, and the departure and attack angles and stuff like that, just because it's short. But this thing will go places that thing won't even touch, won't even come close, even with the lockers and stuff like that. We've had some chances to play around in some rocks and stuff like that when we were back in the Okanagan, and I won't even be spinning, and he's having to, you know, use 4 low and lockers and all kinds of stuff to get over some stuff, mainly dragging the you know, the belly and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to kind of go over the couple little things that are done to it, and actually kind of walk you through something that isn't really super typical that's done with these that makes them ride freaking awesome. So here she is. So you guys may have seen before, the Fox is in here. So the JLs, the JLUs, the Unlimiteds, the 2 doors, the 4 doors, don't come with these. They come with their, whatever the stock Rubicon shock is. These are actually shocks off of a Gladiator. So that same friend with the big one, that's all on the, you know, the big lift and everything like that, has upgraded to other suspension setup, and he was no longer in need of these. These shocks off of the Gladiator are roughly 2 inches longer than the stock ones. Both compressed and fully extended. They don't take anything to mount up. This thing, as you can see, rust down there, I left the original brackets on just because I do plan on going bigger, but it actually doesn't need it. It's complete bolts up on the front, nice and easy, and these shocks are a lot softer. They're valved super soft. 4-door, I've seen some guys that have tried putting them on, and they said it's sloppy, it's all over the place. The 2-door is a little bit lighter, and we don't carry a whole lot of gear because we've got 3 dogs. There isn't really a whole lot of room for gear, and this thing rides absolutely fantastic. Without the sway bar, it is, you know, it does move around a little bit, but that's to be expected. Any vehicle would. And then just a little puck lift, 2.5, nothing crazy. Lower control arms. It's Daystar stuff, so cheap, but it works. Everything flexes nice. There's no creaks. Obviously the coating's coming off on these things already, which is not so good, but that'll be changed soon. Yeah, it doesn't really take a whole lot else. In that little clip at the beginning there, the thing's flexed right out to a point where the inside tire is up in the wheel well. It's actually touching up in here. It gets all the way up into the bottom of these fenders, which will eventually be changed. And the brake lines have more than enough room. Even if I did a 3.5, there would still be enough room for those brake lines. Wouldn't need to put extensions on or anything like that. So it's a little bit different. Now the rear is a different story. So I don't know if we can I get down in there and see this? So see, there's some spacers in there. Bottom bolts up. Bottom's no problem. Spacers in the top. So with the rear, video got cut off for whatever reason. With the rear, they don't bolt up. different bolt sizes with the Gladiator. A little bit, a little bit beefier, obviously a little heavier. They've got a bigger bolt in the upper mount. Bottom is the same as well. Had to change that a little bit. So what I ended up doing is I got some super hard steel spacers. They were a little bit too big. Ground them down to the exact size to space that shock out in the center of the mount. They're slightly larger than the diameter. The inside diameter of the spacer is slightly larger than the outside diameter of the bolt. As long as it's tight, it's not going to go anywhere. It matters what the shock diameter is for the bolt hole. Now, the only way to really deal with that is either try to get something made, change the shock tower up or something like that. I did some research, talked to a few guys. I have a buddy that has been a mechanic for about 30 years and a few guys in the high performance automotive world, because I come from a racing background. They use JB Weld for everything. So that's what we did. I filled the holes up on the upper mounts of the shocks, let that harden, and then I drilled the JB Weld out to the proper size of the bolts for the JL, which are slightly smaller. Not a lot, but enough that you'd get a bit of a clunk and you'd wear things out, and I don't want to do that. I don't like noises. I don't like things being sloppy. So I've drilled those out. Since these shocks have been put in, we've got about 10,000, I think, just over 10,000 kilometers on it. They are still tight. I check everything before every time we go out. Everything is tight. They haven't wore out a bit. There's not even the tiniest little bit of slop in those uppers. And everything works awesome. This thing rides absolutely fantastic. It doesn't have any sort of creaks. It doesn't have too much excessive body roll. Obviously, I'd love to have the quick, the electronic disconnect sway bar. That's not the case. That's okay. I actually have an anti-rock on order, which is going to be sweet. I'm excited, but they say up to 2 months kind of thing. So we'll see when it actually gets here, but we're running it without the sway bar for the time being, because that's the way I've ran everything for basically since I got my license. And I decided that I just wanted to cut the sway bars off the first little two-door Cherokee that I had. So this is the way this thing sits. Nothing too crazy. Obviously the lowers on the front just to make sure everything's centered. Those 2.5 inch spacers. And this thing flexes pretty good. It gets all the way to the bump stops right when it starts touching the fender, when the wheel wells, or when the tire's all the way stuffed up in the wheel well. And keeps everything surprisingly planted. I can get quite a bit of flex out of this thing. I don't know the exact amount of wheel travel. I should actually check it one day, but it's a lot. I'm going to say 12, 13 inches kind of thing. One side drops, the other side's up. That could be completely wrong. I'm just pulling stuff out of nowhere. But it does work fantastic. Next thing is going to cutting these. I need to get rid of these. I had originally ordered American Venture Labs lights. They told me it was going to be a while to be able to get here. It was kind of right in the middle of when everything was crappy with shipping and stuff like that, and all the highways got shut down from Vancouver, and it was going to take 2-3 months plus before they would come in. So I decided to cancel that order. I'm debating what I want to do. I might put a set of just little steel flares on it and make up a light, just to give me a little bit more room and make this thing a little beefier, because it is wide enough. But I do like a little bit more aggressive stance. I like those tires out a little bit. Just looks nicer. Doesn't really make a difference in how things work so much with something like this. It's not it's not a big buggy or something like that. But I do want to get rid of this. Cut right along here, get rid of these. Unfortunately with the Sport, it's not two pieces like the Saharas or the Rubicons, but you still can. It's the exact same line. You still can cut it. It's the same thing as the Sahara. It's not the high clearance. The only difference with the Sahara and the Rubicon is they're up a little bit further. With the Rubicon, they're high clearance fenders. And then from the Sahara and the Rubicon to these, it's just single piece, so you have to cut it and then make the fender well on the inside work, which is a project that's going to be coming down the line. But it's not important right now. Everything works for the time being. Once we get that anti-rock, this thing will be nice and planted all the time. Don't have to worry about it taking on long road trips and not stress. And then get our winch all mounted up, and this thing will be pretty much good to go until we decide that we want to go maybe a little bit bigger tires, bigger lift, all that fun stuff. Hi.